Let's start talking about and move over to the 2021 cycle, which we are now in. We already have declared candidates for both political parties. I want to start because we're talking about the Republican Party right now. Let's talk about their prospective candidates in 2021 and what it looks like. I think with the increasing number of candidates and frankly quality candidates that are starting to dip their toe in the water, I think they're sensing a Trump defeat in the fall. And if that's the case, a Biden presidency makes it more likely, maybe not likely, but more likely that a Republican has at least a shot at winning statewide and rebuilding the party. So let's talk about from the top down, governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, candidates that you're hearing about or have come in contact with or are rumored to hear are about this or would like to see run. Let's start with governor. Anyone have a conversation there they want to start?
I want to address something quick, Chris, if I could. I want to address the comments made by Amanda Chase last night on social media about Senator McClellan. And I truly.
What she did this time?
She said some incredibly racist things, insinuating that because Senator McClellan is part of the Black Caucus of the legislature, that she doesn't represent, quote unquote, all Virginians. And I'm starting to wonder if Amanda Chase is George Wallace in a skirt. Like, I'm starting to wonder. Well, that is true. Starting, nice. She's already been there. But I'm starting to really get concerned that, we're wrapping ourselves in Confederate flags and we're not presenting a message for everyone. We're presenting a message for the white evangelical person in Southwest Virginia, and we're not presenting a message for all Virginians. And if we don't present a message for all Virginians that everyone can get behind, we're doomed.
Yep.
Hey, on that little bit of ray of sunshine there as the storms roll in western Henrico County here.
Fairfax is getting it pretty good too, Chris.
Yeah, it's rumbling all up.
The Roanoke Valley is soggy.
Chris, to Matt's point, as far as I'm concerned, Senator Chase is not a realistic or legitimate candidate, so I don't want to give her a lot of airtime. I think she's disqualified herself through the things that she has been saying and the way she's been campaigning over the last couple of weeks. So as far as I'm concerned, she may be the only announced candidate right now. But I think that's likely because many of the other candidates are going to respect the fact that we do have an election in November. We have congressional races in November, and we want to let those folks have the airtime right now because they need to get elected, and then we'll deal with governor's race next year. But as far as I'm concerned, the only person that I think has a credible shot of getting elected governor, Rob Boatman. From Northern Virginia, first district. I think he's the only one that's got the gravitas. He's the only one that's got the statewide connections that if he decides to run for governor, I think he's got a legitimate chance to win. Other than that, I don't think there really is much else.
Mike?
I really think Pete Snyder's leading the way with the 30-day fund. I think that really puts him to the front of the pack. If it is Terry McAuliffe on the Democrat side, you need someone that's going to rake in as much money as Terry, if not more. So I would say Pete Snyder. My dream candidate would be Barbara Comstock. I think, once again, if you can't win Northern Virginia, or at least make a dent in Northern Virginia, you can't win the state at all. Although we all come from different parts of the state, we all know. Without Nova, without any part, of the crescent there, you can't win. And you need someone that's going to play in those suburbs. And I think Barbara would be a phenomenal candidate if she's willing to dust her cape off.
Don't disagree. My sense in my conversations with Barbara is that she's not. But let's consider Pete Snyder and his because he's been rumored, he's been out there kicking the tires for over a year now. Clearly, the 30-day fund, brilliant stuff, helping people out, great political story to tell if you're going to tell a statewide story. But will that translate into primary voters in the Republican Party, which is about 300,000 now, if you look at the 18 model, or a convention? And let's just roll those dynamics up.
So let me say this.
Why don't you go ahead, Matt?
Pete Snyder can win either a primary or a convention, so long as he I want him to be more punchy. I want him to be out there. And I would say this to him myself. I'm not saying this, behind his back or anything. I would say it to him himself. He's got to be able to say that Amanda Chase is unelectable. I am the one who can win. I can raise the money. I can do the right thing. But he's got to be able to stand up, and I know he can do it. I know Pete Snyder can stand up to her. But it's got to be done, and we can't spend our time going, oh, well, Amanda said something again. We can't really, we can't really challenge her for it. No, you got to be aggressive, and you got to say, look, you're not a Republican. You don't get to say that and be a Republican. Case closed.
EJ, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, perhaps in January of 2021, you may be able to read Amanda Chase out of the Republican Party. But until January 20th of 2021, you can't do that and have any credibility. Not with the President of the United States right now.
Well, that's
Andrea.
What I was going to say is that I'm not really sure that she is a member of the Republican Party. Only I don't know what the dynamic is in Chesterfield at the moment with her status. But I agree with Matt and with Brian. I think Rob Whitman would be a good candidate. I think Pete Snyder would be a good candidate. I think that Rob Whitman brings a different dynamic as far as who goes where when. But yeah, I think he would do well. But without breaking down the uncomfortable point of Trump being at the top of the ticket and whether or not we're going to end up in a convention choosing a gubernatorial candidate, until we can do those two things, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, Brian.
I'll be honest. Look, Pete Snyder's a friend of mine. I've known him for a very long time. He and I get along very well. I would much rather see him run for lieutenant governor again than run for governor. I feel like the chief executive role, we need somebody that has some kind of elected office experience. And I love Pete, but he hasn't done it. So I'd love to see him run for LG again. I think he'd be a shoo-in for the nomination for lieutenant governor if he decides to go after it. And I think he'd serve very well. Even if it ends up being, I could see it being something along the lines of Bill Bowling's first term, when you are, the governor's a Democrat and you're a Republican. So I could see that happening. I think that would be interesting. So I hope that he is at least considering running for LG again, because I think he could pull that off pretty easily.
Okay, anyone else on the speculation front? What have you heard? Let's get into some good rumor mongering if we can. That's always far more interesting for our viewers and our listeners if you get into some really good, what have you heard? Because I've heard a number of things. I've had candidates call me, and those are private conversations, and I will not speculate or offer those for rumors. But what have you heard that you want to report on?
I keep hearing this wild and crazy rumor that Bill Carrico is going to do it, and let me say, as someone from Southwest Virginia, Bill, is a very nice person, but I mean, it's 2020. The party has moved away from that Bible Belt conservatism, with the exception of the 5th District.
Has it?
I think it has. I think we've moved farther, and we've moved away from that. And I don't think it's – Bill Carrico could have run for governor
the party
20 years ago.
The party or the state?
The state. I think the state.
Okay.
The state's moved. The state's moved a long way from where Bill Carrico is, and I don't think that's going to be a good shot.
Anybody else on the top of the ticket? Yeah, Mike, you got your hands up there?
Yeah, I read recently, I keep reading, that George Allen might make a comeback.
Wow.
So I have
I
read
heard
that. And, he took some time off. Especially going against a titan like Terry or whoever the Democrats put up. I mean, Jennifer McClellan is not going to be an easy – she's not going to go easy if that's the nominee. Plus, we don't know if, talking about rumor mills, Terry might see the field so clogged up, he might take a job in the Biden administration and pass his gravitas off to LeVar.
No.
LeVar's a non-factor.
No. DJ?
LeVar's a non-factor.
Yeah, no. LeVar.
Time, hands up.
So that's okay. That's okay. But Matt is right. LeVar's going to have enough trouble getting reelected mayor of Richmond at this point. But that, in terms of what the Democrats will do in 2021, we really don't know. A Biden victory might encourage, might lead Democratic primary voters to say, we don't have to play it safe anymore. We don't have to play it safe with Terry McCollum. Let's give Jennifer McClellan a shot. Let's, or someone else. Both the lieutenant governor and attorney general positions look like they'll be open. Perhaps Herring might be encouraged to go back to running for AG again, but I don't necessarily think so. And whatever office Justin Fairfax attempts to run for, he will be challenged. So it's not going to be Pollyanna over on the Democratic side. We have some interesting decisions to make in terms of who we put forward against you guys in 2021. And there's no guarantee that we are going to go with the most electable, particularly if it's in the first year of a Biden administration and voters want to take a chance and take some risks.
All right, let's stick to the Republican statewide right now. We've heard, obviously Amanda Chase has announced Pete Snyder, Rob Whitman, George Allen would be interesting, sort of a redux of the '93 campaign where crime was the central issue. That might be interesting given the dynamics that are going on in the country right now and in the changes that are made in Northern Virginia with some of the Commonwealth attorneys up there. Bill Carrico, anybody else that we're hearing about speculating running Andrea for governor?
Well, I don't know if it's so much speculation as rumor, but somebody mentioned that it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing if Mr. McDonald were to run again.
Bob McDonald.
McDonald.
We're gonna put the band back together, huh?
Yeah.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
It's just, you said rumor.
Well, hang on, ladies and gentlemen. We now have Lynn Mitchell, who is about to break radio silence.
Thanks, Chris. No, while we are into the George Allen and Bob McDonnell, there is another name that I have heard from in the past, and that is Bill Bolling. Bill Bolling had wanted to, of course, he served lieutenant governor twice, and he wanted to run as governor, and we all know what happened with that. So, times have changed now, and maybe it would be a good time to have someone like a Bill Bolling.
Okay. So
I agree with Lynn 1,000%. I think, the time now, I think folks like Bill Bolling, and I hate to even hesitate to even say this, folks like me, I've been getting the itch sitting back and watching what's been going on. And I think it's time now for good people to stand up and start doing stuff and not see the sidelines to the folks that are.
So are you throwing your hat in for LG or AG?
Not statewide. We'll see about something else, but not statewide. Look, you guys have heard me pontificate on more than one occasion about the need for experience. And I think if you've got folks that are running statewide, maybe LG is a job maybe somebody could do without having elected office experience. But I think AG and governor are too substantial for somebody to run without having served at all.
Right, well,
so I wouldn't consider myself experienced enough to run for either of them. So I wouldn't.
Let's talk about some other LG candidates, people that you've heard, not speculate on. And then we're gonna jump into the fifth, and we're gonna go to the Democrats, and then the most recent conventions here in Virginia for the congressional nominations. Anything on LG that you're hearing?
DJ Jordan.
Really?
I've been hearing there's some people out there that would want him to do it. I would be among that group. I think he's great.
I hear his opponent in the House of Delegates races is considering LG as well.
That could be interesting.
Very. Other than DJ, anyone else? I've heard Puneet Alawalia.
Maybe Comstock would do it.
I've heard rumors that Puneet's considering it. Yeah, I've seen that too.
I think Barbara's a hard no. On
my conversations with her, she has not indicated to me that she has any desire to run again anytime soon.
Okay, AG.
I'd be surprised about that.
I've heard Bill Stanley, AG.
Oh, that could be interesting.
Yeah.
I would love to see my former boss, Bill Stanley, jump in the Attorney General's race. Bill is an amazing person and fights for Southside Virginia expertly. And I would love to see Bill Stanley hop in.
Okay. Anyone else on a statewide ticket for Republicans that we've not mentioned, or you go, oh yeah, I did hear about that one. Last call for statewide and Republicans.
Well, if Donald Trump loses, Ken Cuccinelli's going to need a job.
Oh, DJ.
DJ, I was just about
I can't believe you said
say
that. I can't.
My question:
Trolling.
Did anybody mention Glenn Davis? Did anybody bring that up?
No.
I've not heard anything about Glenn.
Glenn.
Okay.
Glenn is. I've heard that name floated a little bit that he might run for lieutenant governor. I've heard that name floating through the grapevine.
Again, okay.
Going off of DJ's point, though, we do need to consider if, let's say, Trump gets reelected, even if he gets reelected or if he loses, Amanda Chase is going to try and get, Trump's mantle. That's not going to happen. She will collapse. It is very possible Cuccinelli might emerge, especially if we're talking about the band back together. George Allen hopping in, McDonnell hopping in. Cuccinelli might position himself as the Trump heir.
Interesting. Okay, let's do a show of hands here who think Donald Trump is going to win re-election.
No, wow.
None.
50-50. 50-50. I don't know.
You think it's 50-50? Okay. Anyone
I
else?
think it depends. I think it depends on what the economy looks like come end of the summer.
Okay, fair. Anybody else? At this stage of the game, down 8 points nationally in our Real Clear Politics average, which is 4 points worse than where he was with Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. It's very unlikely that he gets the popular vote. I don't see a path right now for the Electoral College. And right now, I think the most important question before the country is who's the vice president going to be for Joe Biden. DJ?
Yeah, I think Donald Trump's best weeks of the 2016 campaign were the week before he prepared for the debates and the week when FBI Director Comey announced that he had reopened the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server. What those 2 weeks had in common was nobody talked about Donald Trump for that week. When he's knocked off the front pages, he does better. When you're president of the United States, you can't get off the front pages even if you try, and he's not going to try.
Fair, very fair observation there, DJ. Well done. See, that's how you do it, folks. That's okay. That's how you, yeah, Mike.
I think for Trump, with Hillary not being, his opposition and Biden being a more likable opponent, I don't think he's going to get those states back in terms of Michigan or Pennsylvania. I think that goes to Biden. And especially if Biden picks a strong VP candidate, I think he's going to pick Val Demings, especially with her police background. I think that could be a really powerful pick. And
Agreed.
She comes from Florida. And if Biden steals Florida, it's hard to see a Trump victory from there.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you look for in a VP pick is that the person cannot overshadow the top of the ticket. And I think Kamala Harris presents that problem for the Biden folks. And I think Susan Rice is a little too cast in the past. But I think Susan Rice is the inside, has got the inside rail on that one myself. Just the interplay of Washington, D.C. on national security and trade issues. Anybody else on the Republicans before we take over? So we don't think Donald Trump wins. The show of hands here was not there. It was someone had a half of a hand up. So Trump looks like he's going to lose. We're just going to go into that speculation. And there's a ton of people running for a statewide office or dipping their toes in. Everyone sees an opportunity. Democrats, because the state's trending so strongly towards Democrats, and Republicans seeing that they have a chance to get the depressed turnout for the Democrats in 2021 as a means to getting on the statewide success there. So let's turn to the Democrats. One of the problems that I have, one of the observations I have is there's a lot of people out there who are not thrilled with Terry McAuliffe as governor. I mean, no one's going, oh, gee, Terry's going to run. I shouldn't run at this. They're going at it no matter what. Brian?
I don't want to speak to DJ's party too much, but at least from my perspective, I feel like right now, McAuliffe is probably too conservative for the current Democratic Party in Virginia to want to put up again. I just don't see there being an appetite. I think they see, and rightfully so, that they have the best opportunity to get a progressive elected than they've ever had in the history of the Commonwealth. And they would be throwing away that opportunity if they didn't try to put somebody up like that, which is why I think probably from my standpoint as an outside observer, I think Jennifer McClellan is probably the more likely gubernatorial nominee. She's got all the stuff that they want to have out there at the top of the ticket. She checks all the right boxes, and she's got the experience to be able to do the job. So I think Senator McClellan, at least as far as I can tell, is probably their best shot at holding that office, even if Trump loses. Because I think if he loses,
what about if McAuliffe runs?
I think she can beat him. I think his day is over in the Democratic Party.
See, I don't. I think the Democrats in Northern Virginia are far more moderate, far more conservative than the rest of the country is being portrayed. And I think Terry McAuliffe wins it pretty handily if it's a primary, because I think you're going to have a lot of people dividing the not Terry vote. DJ?
Yeah, I would have to say probably based on what I've seen within the party, I'm gonna put myself between the two of you. I would say I don't think Terry McAuliffe is too conservative for the Democratic Party. I think the Democratic Party is actually much closer to the center than a lot of Republicans think it is. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Terry McAuliffe would beat Jennifer McClellan. There is going to be a lot of push in the party to get past the old white guys, and Jennifer McClellan can be in that position to take advantage of that. But again, I don't know. If when you throw it up to a statewide party, Terry McAuliffe has the Northern Virginia advantage, which you could pit against McClellan. It would be a very interesting primary, a very competitive primary. I am not going to say I know who would win between those two because I genuinely don't know. It could end up being determined by really the aftermath of what's going on with the police violence in Richmond, which is looking very, very bad on the mayor right now. If McClellan spins that into an added part of her insurgency campaign, and McAuliffe doesn't respond to that well, then yeah, she could very well pull up the inside track and win. There's too many variables that we haven't solved yet between now and the summer of 2021 to say we know who's going to be nominated. I don't know who we're going to nominate.
Do you think Terry McAuliffe runs? And let's ask that right now. Do you think he runs? And if he does, when would it be the best time for him to announce? Because
Are we doing a show of hands?
What's that, Mike?
Are we doing a show of hands if you think he's going to run?
Okay, show of hands. Does McAuliffe run?
Yeah.
Brian's a no. Merle, no. Okay. When should he get in? Because
after the November election.
After November.
It also depends if Biden asks. If Biden asks him to be Secretary of State or Commerce, is Terry going to pass that up for governor?
True. Good point.
Okay. Anybody else on the Democratic statewide? How about Mark Herring? Does he run? He's Attorney General of Fairfax.
He will. No. I think I will say that he will. If McAuliffe runs, Herring will not. If McAuliffe doesn't run, Herring might give it a shot for about a week. I think it is more likely that someone will tell Mark Herring it would be better if he ran for another term as Attorney General and worked on continuing to rehabilitate himself.
Because it's only Jay Jones, right, that's going against him for AG.
Well, Shannon Taylor, Henrico County prosecutor, has thrown her hat in the ring recently.
That would be a nasty, nasty fight.
Until someone can insert a run for lieutenant governor.
Well, I think, Mark Herring has been one of the most political attorney generals we've had in a long time. And I say that even, with Ken Cuccinelli in that office. So I think he's good. I think he's jonesing to be governor. I think he wants to be governor. I think he's just waiting for his time. And that could be now, but I can't tell what he's going to do.
Okay, let's, so I think, how about Jennifer Carroll Foy, a relatively new delegate, Prince William County, young mother, VMI grad. Certainly doesn't lack for ambition.
She's making the rounds and doing fundraising with the federal candidates. I saw her doing an event with Jerry Connolly. So, I mean, I think she's obviously lining herself up for something. I'm just not sure what it is.
She's one to watch.
She's absolutely one to watch. But here's what I hear from Democratic insiders: they just don't like her.
Why so?
I think they see she's overly ambitious. She wants something but doesn't give it back. I mean, she'll ask for donations, but she won't give endorsements. You know, and I think a lot of people who would prefer Jennifer McClellan are like, you know, we're going to go with Jennifer McClellan, and you know, maybe you should think about lieutenant governor. Maybe you're just, you know, a little to Brian's point about experience. She hasn't been there that long. You know, but I hear this from so many different Democratic operatives and folks out there. They just she rubbed the wrong way, and then, you know, liking someone goes a long way in this business. And I never hear that about you know, Jennifer McClellan. I never hear that about Terry McAuliffe or Mark Herring or.
Well, speaking of not being liked, Matt just texted me that Lee Carter might be dipping his toe in to really set it ablaze. So
Can we not wish that into existence? Can we like not talk about that, Mike?
The thing that shall not be spoken of.
Yes, he's like, Lee is such a bad candidate in general.
Well,
I
again,
mean,
look, no matter.
Hey, speak. My apologies for interruption, but I would be very thrilled to see Lee Carter get smoked in a primary instead of trying to defend that Prince
Well,
William
again,
seat. Thank you very much.
let's back this up and put our real political hats on here. No matter who gets in, they're all going to have a piece of the pie of the electorate. The question is, who stacks up and who wins and by how much? And what happens at the divisions of the party if, say, you have 5 people running for governor? You know, it doesn't take much to get the 30 points for Terry McAuliffe. Honestly.
That's absolutely right. And that I think is going to be the biggest issue with the Democrats. They're going to have so many folks with higher ambition that want to jump in, and the bar is so low. And when you see insurgent candidates like AOC and other folks out there who come in, they don't have a huge name ID, but they build that grassroots base up, and they go in and they take out long-term incumbents. Nobody's afraid to run against anybody anymore. So I expect you're going to see a lot of people running, and that's going to result in pluralities and crazy races that nobody's expecting to happen. That's what I see in the future.
What we're going to start seeing is what happened to the Republican Party 20 years ago, is that everyone wants to run for these offices, and they're going to start ripping each other apart. And the party is going to divide us up. You're going to see House guys challenging Senate folks. And that's the most difficult part of being in the majority, is not defeating the other team, is not being defeated from within. Andrea?
I see it a little bit differently. I was reading last week a memo. I think it was the 8th District Democrats. DJ, you can help me out here if I'm wrong. They had written the platform on healthcare, and the state parties, the language that the state party ultimately adopted for the 8th District, the 8th District did not think was progressive enough. And I think that statewide, generally, they tend to be more, well, they tend to be less progressive than in other states like California or, you know, New York, because the ultimate language that ended up on that issue getting put into their platform was not what the 8th District voted on. It's not what they wanted. They wanted healthcare for all, and they ended up choosing language that was more of get there when I can via expansion of the ACA.
Well, this is the dynamic that's going to play out if Trump loses. What is the accelerant for turnout and swing voters in suburban areas, and can Republicans wade into that to get more votes? I did get a text about a potential candidate for statewide office, and Senator Siobhan Dunham, who happens to be my state senator. That might be an interesting pick because she's also an OBGYN, and coming from a suburban background with Ken Stolley as her brother in Virginia Beach, she could be a potentially dynamic candidate statewide. Let's move, if we can. Any other shots at LG? I've heard delegates Hala Ayala and Elizabeth Guzman for lieutenant governor. That would be an interesting dynamic there. But I do think at some point when McAuliffe enters, that one of these candidates, or maybe 2 of these candidates for governor, go, you know what, LG sounds pretty good, and I can build my career from there.